Good evening and welcome to our regular council meeting of Monday, January 24th, 2022. Call the meeting to order at 5 p.m. First item 1.1, conflict of interest declaration, pecuniary or non-pecuniary. Is there any in the room this evening? None, thank you. Moving on to item 2.1, the regular council meeting agenda for January 24th, 2022. Are any additions to the agenda? Seeing none, can I get someone to make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented? Councillor Saylor, any discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimously, thank you. Moving on to item 3.1, adoption of previous minutes. We have the regular council meeting minutes from January 10th, 2022. Are there any errors or omissions in the minutes? Seeing none, can I get someone to make a motion to adopt the minutes as circulated? Councillor Beekman, any discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimously, thank you. Item 3.2, the special council meeting minutes from January 17th, 2022. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, can I get someone to make a motion to adopt the minutes? Councillor Chapman, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 4.1, business arising from the minutes. We have 5:30, sorry. So then we'll move on to item 7.1. Land Use Bylaw Amendment 839-P-12-21, first reading. And we have Melanie coming to present this evening. Welcome, Melanie. And the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Van Ryan. Good evening, Council. The following report is to present Council with Bylaw 839-P-12-21. The bylaw is to redesignate a portion of the subject lands identified in Schedule A of this report. The redesignation generally aligns with the suggested land use as per the town plan. More specifically in map 4, if you look at future land use, it is identified the north end of town. It should be noted that only a portion of the area located west of the existing sewage lagoons are proposed to be rezoned. The small area captured in the rezoning is a response to a title correction and for the purposes of the expansion of the sewage lagoons. As a matter of process, the MGA states that once a public hearing has been set, the notice of the rezoning must be circulated to surrounding property owners and advertised in the Sunny South News for 2 consecutive weeks leading up to the hearing. So in addition, a public notice will be featured on the town's Let's Connect Coaldale platform to share information about the rezoning and to collect feedback from the community. So as per the council procedural bylaw, council is required to vote on first reading of the proposed bylaw without amendment or debate. With all that said, council is respectfully requested to vote on first reading of bylaw 839-P-12-21 with the recommendation from staff that council provide first reading of bylaw 839-P-12-21 and set the public hearing date as February 14, 2022 at 5:05 p.m. And with that, I pass it back to you, Mayor Van Ryan.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Melanie? Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Mayor Van Ryan, and through to Melanie. Thank you so much for bringing this forward, and I'll be happy to bring first reading to this bylaw. This is really a cleanup from a previous recommendation or request in years past. Thank you.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Avery.
I'm just a little concerned if we put too much at the February 14th meeting. So should we push this back maybe to the last second meeting in February, just because we've got the VLTs coming February 14th.
Is there any concerns with that, Mal, if we do that?
There is no concerns with that.
Okay. Would you accept a friendly amendment?
Friendly amendment to set the date for the following council meeting, which
Is
would
that the
be
24th, Lana?
The 28th.
28th
28th? Okay.
at 5:05 PM.
Okay. Sure. Whichever you prefer.
Great.
Okay, so pick a time so we can have it in the motion then. 5:20, okay. So that the motion's going to read that council provides first reading of land use bylaw 839-P-12-21 and schedule the public hearing for February 28th at 5:20 PM. And that's sponsored by Councillor Chapman. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, moving on to agenda item 7.2, Asset Management Policy ARG-31. And Tim, our asset manager, is going to be presenting this evening. Welcome, Tim. The floor is yours when you're ready.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for your time tonight. I'll be presenting the Asset Management Policy ARG-031. As you may recall from the December 1st Council Workshop on Asset Management is the application of sound technical, social, and economic principles that considers present and future needs of users and the services delivered from assets over their life cycle. In that workshop, most of you agreed that council is responsible for ensuring that the town's physical assets remain sustainable for future generations to enjoy, and that this responsibility shouldn't change with future councils. Policy is a mechanism that council can use to help ensure that this happens. This policy will help to facilitate logical, methodical, and informed decision-making for the life cycle planning of assets to achieve greater asset sustainability and build community resilience. The policy is a bridge between council's strategic plan and the town's overall asset management strategy, linking the corporate vision and objectives to tangible metrics around assets. The approval of an asset management policy is also a key objective of the 2021 FCM MAP grant. The approval of this policy will allow administration through the asset management team to develop a strategy and roadmap that articulates administrative procedures and implementation actions for the next 1 to 3 years. Separating the policy from the strategy and the roadmap in this way creates a less restrictive framework for implementing asset management practices while still involving council's direction. This policy was drafted, reviewed, and approved by the asset management team, which is a cross-departmental team from all departments of the town. And this policy was also reviewed by our external asset management consultant. With that, the decision options presented to you tonight are: 1, that council approve the asset management policy ARG-031, or 2, that council request administration to provide further information before approving the policy. The recommendation is that council approve the asset management policy ARG-031.
Thank you, Tim. Is there any questions for Tim this evening? Seeing none, could I get someone to sponsor one of the options? Councillor Pickering. Okay, so Councillor Pickering sponsors that council approve the asset management policy ARG-031. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 7.3, Information Management Policy Amendment ARG-028. And our legislative coordinator, Lana Antony, is going to be presenting this evening.
Thank you, Mayor Van Ryan and members of council. The information management policy amendment came about. This is part of the records management project that the town has been undergoing for the past year and a half. And it became apparent that while I am the lead on the project, but it makes it more important for each business area to have like an expert in their area overseeing this. So as a result of that, we've started our project with corporate services as first flipping the switch on organizing their records, and it became apparent that we needed to make this amendment. So the amendment is to name an information management coordinator, and it's just a procedural item for the policy.
Any questions for Lana? So we have two options for the motion. One is that council approve the proposed amendments to Information Management Policy ARG-028, as well as supporting Schedules A and C. Is there someone willing to sponsor that resolution? Councillor Beekman, any discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 7.4, the flag display policy, C-016-0418 amendment. Again, our legislative coordinator, Lana Anthony, will be presenting.
Thank you again, Mayor Van Ryan and members of council. The flag display policy lists 6 significant dates that are mirrored by the Government of Canada. And part of our policy is that they include all of our 3 locations that have 3 flag poles at each one, including the town office, the welcome sign, and the cenotaph. It was noted in July that also our fire hall has a flagpole as well, which displays the Canada flag. So at that time, we amended to include the fire hall so that whenever a flag is raised or lowered within a town facility, the fire hall was included. It was most recently noted that the museum also has a flagpole as well with the Canada flag. So we just want to loop all of our locations into one. So the policy is amendment of C-06-0418 is just an amendment to include all of our facilities.
Okay. Any questions for Lana? So our option for motion is that council approve the flag display policy C-016-1418 as presented to include the Gem of the West Museum. Can I get a sponsor for that motion, please? Councillor Reese. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Did you want to say something else?
Yeah,
Okay.
well, further to that motion, I wanted to say that council direct administration and come back with a staff report on the possibility of adding a community flag at the Civic Square alongside the other 3 flags that are already currently there, the National Flag of Canada, the Provincial Flag, and the Town of Coaldale flag.
Okay.
So you're asking that administration come back with a staff report regarding the possibility of adding a
4th flag.
A 4th
to the
flagpole,
Civic, yeah.
a community flagpole.
Yeah.
Okay. Any discussion? Councillor Chapman?
Thank you, Mayor, and I'll be speaking against the motion. We have a policy here for 3 flags in Coaldale, and that will include our current location at the town office plus the Civic Square location, so that will have the 3 flags as specified in the policy. So I will be voting against the staff report request.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Saylor?
I was just curious, why do you want the 4th pole? Like, what would we display on it? I'm just curious.
Well, it would be a community flagpole, so it would be for LGBTQ Pride Day. It would be for anything else that is all-inclusive, along with all the rest of our flags.
So would it just be used on those days, or would we use it year-round? Like, would it just be Pride Day, or would you want to keep something up on it all the time?
It would be used whenever there's an event taking place, whether it's Pride Day, whether it's,
But
there's
then would it
another.
just be blank on the other days is what I'm asking, or would we put something up there so that it wasn't just a blank pole sitting there all the other days?
That could be a part of the staff report as an option then. Deputy Mayor Avery.
Thank you, Mayor Van Ryn. So I'll speak in favor of it, but I would like to see that fourth flag 365 days of the year flying the Blackfoot Confederacy flag, as that is the land that we occupy. And so if we're going to do a fourth flag, I believe it should be from Treaty 7 or Blackfoot Confederacy.
Councillor Beekman.
Through to Councillor Avery, is that 365 non-negotiable, or would you be willing to waiver that for something like a Pride Week or something?
Sorry. If we are flying a Canadian flag 365, I think we should be flying that flag 365 as well. And what's the alternate? Which flag do you take down? Which one is less important? Which one is more important? It's not up to me to decide. It'll be up to us as a council to decide.
So the motion on the floor is regarding a community flagpole, requesting a staff report to come back at a future meeting. And then the discussion that Deputy Mayor Avery brought up is something that can be discussed at that time then. Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Chapman opposed. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 7.5, the video lottery terminals in Coaldale, Bylaw 840-R-01-22. Our Manager of Economic Development and Strategic Initiatives is going to be presenting, Cameron Mills. Welcome, Cam. Floor is yours when you're ready.
Thank you very much. Just give me a moment to set up here. Thank you. So council is in receipt of report with respect to Bylaw 840-R-01-22, which is available here today for council's consideration. And the bylaw permits for the installation and operation of video lottery terminals in the town of Coaldale. This is brought before council based on direction from the previous meeting, whereby council indicated a desire to consider a bylaw of this nature. And just want to point out, just to be clear where the bylaw comes from, that we did use a bylaw considered by council at the February 13th, 2017 council meeting as a template for the preparation of this bylaw, with one notable difference. We did remove section 4C from that previous bylaw, which had to do with the regulation of these uses within the land use bylaw. And the reason this was removed from this draft of the bylaw was simply to align with our goal of reducing red tape, noting that this creates a bit of an overlap or redundancy with respect to the regulation of these matters. So for that reason, that was removed. I would note that if council's preference was to consider the bylaw with something within the land use bylaw that regulated that we could certainly add that as an amendment if that's something council wants to consider. With that being noted, if we did require change to the land use bylaw, that would require an additional bylaw making amendment to the land use bylaw and likely a public hearing to consider that as well at a future date. With respect to that, some of the information in the report is largely taken from a previous report presented to council. So with that in mind, we have provided for various options for council to consider, recommending a public hearing date be set for 5:15 p.m. on February 14th prior to consideration of second reading of the bylaw. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that council might have.
Cameron, just one more time, can you explain, go over that amendment to that bylaw one more time?
Absolutely. So 4C of the previous bylaw had a clause in it. Let me just see if I've got it pulled up. which basically limited the installation of video lottery terminals to where, in a land use district in which the installation, operation, and use of a video lottery terminal is designated as a permitted use in the land use district. And so the reason that was removed is that what that would mean is that someone who wanted a video lottery terminal would need to come in for a development permit from the town, pay $50, $100, depending on what the fee is. But that would be a permitted use, so it would largely be something that's easy to be approved. So create paperwork on our end and a modest fee on the user's end. And our thought is that there are restrictions on where video lottery terminals can be placed. So for example, even if the grocery store wants video lottery terminals, they need to apply to the province in order to have video lottery terminals, and the province would not grant those. The province restricts video lottery terminals to where they can only be operated in age-restricted liquor license venues under a video retailer agreement, which would basically, within Coaldale at this time, as I understand the interpretation of this, would limit it to basically 2 venues in town, though even then there's a question of the age restriction. So if they do, for example, allow children during the day, then I'm not sure that that meets even those criteria. So that would be something that the operators would need to consider alongside the Alberta Gaming, Liquor and Cannabis, the AGLC, in order to receive approval from that level of government.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for Cameron? Okay, seeing none, our options for this evening, we have 3 that council provide first reading of the VLT bylaw 840-R-01-22 and set the public hearing as February 14th, 2022 at 5:15 p.m. Or that council can request administration to come forward with additional information prior to first reading of VLT bylaw 840-R-01-22, or option 3, that council defeat VLT bylaw 840-R-01-22. Any questions or comments? Councillor Rees.
I would like to make a motion in favor of option 1, that council provide first reading of VLT bylaw 840-R-01-22 and set the public hearing date for February 14th at 5:15.
Any discussion on the motion? Councillor Beekman.
Mayor, with the rescheduling of the land use bylaw hearing, would we want to bump this public hearing back to 5:05? It would allow us a little bit more time.
Well, this public hearing, if this motion passes this evening, will take more than a few minutes. So I'll direct that question over to Lana.
It has not. And if I may, I forgot to mention as part of my report, we did receive 2 web form submissions with respect to this matter. We haven't advertised the matter yet. Typically, this would be presented as part of correspondence at a public hearing. So I am prepared to read that to council today if that is council's desire. However, I'd also be prepared to read it presented to council as part of the public hearing. So I'll leave it for you.
I think we can, did you have a comment?
Just a quick comment. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to point out that the correspondence that Mr. Mills references came in after the agenda was posted on our website.
Correct.
Yes. And they were circulated to our council as well, so I believe, yes.
Great.
Okay, so we can save those for the public hearing then as part of that. So then, Councillor Rees, would you accept a friendly amendment to change the time from 5:15 to 5:05?
Yes.
Okay. So one more time, the motion is that council provides first reading of VLT bylaw 840-R-01-22 and set the public hearing as February 14th, 2022 at 5:05 p.m. Any further discussion? Councillor Chapman.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe through to Cam Mills on page 250 and 249, 250 and 251, you have 150 pieces of correspondence
Sorry, that's as part of the correspondence section of the agenda?
That's correct.
Okay.
So my question to you is, although there's 152 pieces of correspondence from proponents for the VLT matter in Coaldale, would you know how many of those are actual Coaldale residents?
Thank you for the question. I'm not sure. I have received those. Again, typically correspondence like this is addressed at a public hearing. We happen to have received it prior to first reading, and I understand we've received a fairly substantial volume, so I haven't taken the opportunity to go through it with a fine-tooth comb at this point.
And just as a clarification as well, on the letters themselves, they have the Coaldale addresses on there?
So just maybe through to Cam again, I counted approximately 23 signatures that were either no address, box numbers, or residencies in other municipalities such as Lethbridge, Tabor, even as far away as Coleman. So I guess in a petition, although these may not, you could suggest that either way you can make an argument for or against. I would certainly, out of respect for the petition, that they be all specifically Coaldale residents. I mean, you can, when we go with petitions, we're pretty clear about, you know, who can sign a petition and what makes them what makes a petition acceptable or or voided. So just a caution to the applicant that the names that they've submitted are a number of them are very, very, very clearly not residents of Coaldale.
So Councillor Chapman, this isn't a petition. Those are letters or correspondence that will come up further down the agenda. And what I can do is I can ask Lana to go through those, and any that don't have proper addresses, as you mentioned, and if they're not from Coaldale, we can clean up that list for the public hearing and speak about them then.
And a few of them, if I may, obviously have do business in Coaldale, but nonetheless, their residency is not here.
Yes, again, it's just correspondence. So Lana will clean up that list for the public hearing on February 14th. Are you okay with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Deputy Mayor Avery and Councillor Chapman opposed. Motion carried. Thank you. It's 5:28, so you want to go ahead with, okay. So business arising from the minutes. We have our accessibility audit final report.
Yeah, I'll grab it.
Thank you, Cam.
Thank you.
Okay, so under 4.1, we have our accessibility audit final report. We have Melanie Messier and Christina Scott from Access Coaldale member. And welcome, Christina.
Thank you for having me.
And if you would like, I'll give you a minute or so just to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. My name is Christina Scott. I've been a resident of Coaldale for 10 years. I love Coaldale and everything that our community stands for. And as a resident with a disability, I've always kind of been an advocate for disability rights, and I kind of always have an eye for what's going on in the community and improvements that can be made. So I'm really happy to be here speaking to you today.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, Mel, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Van Ryan. So with that, we would like to present council with an update on the findings of the accessibility audit that took place over 2021, as well as to present the final report. Previous council direction includes that at the June 14th regular council meeting, council approved a $2,500 amount from the town's safety fund to conduct an accessibility audit. So I'll now pass it on to Christina to speak a little bit about the work that the group's achieved.
All right, so as you know, we recently completed a accessibility audit for the town of Coaldale. So this was a significant, sorry,
It's on.
okay, sorry. So this was a significant milestone for Access Coaldale because it allowed us to appropriately and thoroughly assess the state of Coaldale's public buildings, streets, and pathways. And I want to stress that this audit will not only help people with disabilities in the improvements that we've suggested, but it will also help many demographics such as seniors and their caregivers or parents with young children. Additionally, we are all aging as a population and we're all going to need assistance at some point. So at some point, these improvements are going to be valuable for every citizen. I also want to stress the fact that having barrier-free access to your community is not just a privilege, it's a right. No citizen deserves to be denied access to their community due to external factors that are beyond their control. So I would say if it's within the town of Coaldale's power to create a more barrier-free community, I would strongly encourage you guys to do so, because at the end of the day, it's the right thing to do. We realize that all of the suggestions and improvements in the report will not be implemented overnight, but we appreciate council taking a look at the report as a starting point. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Christina.
Yeah.
So the accessibility audit was just that. It was a first step in Access Coaldale's mission to make the town of Coaldale the most accessible community in Alberta. The audit findings serve as a benchmark, determining what physical barriers exist in our public buildings, as well as some of our streets, as well as pathways. So within the report, you'll find recommendations for improvements, which council can consider. While there are additional references to need for further investigation into select facilities before recommendations for modifications can be made. It is worth noting that in the final section of the report, there are recommendations for handy ride locations near public facilities, and this was a response to a newly formed partnership with Coaldale and District Handy Ride Association. The next step in the audit process involves estimated costs associated with all of the recommendations, or a majority of the recommendations in the report, for the purposes of informing a prioritization exercise which Access Coaldale will initiate. So staff is currently preparing a public participation plan for council's review, and in order to move forward with the estimates and prioritization exercises, staff will return to council at a future date to request additional funding. So in terms of stakeholder engagement when relating to the accessibility audit, a call out to the community was done through Access Coaldale's and the town's social media channels. A total of 4 volunteers participated in the audit, inclusive of our mayor at the time. So I'll just conclude with that. Staff respectfully requests that council accepts the accessibility audit final report as information. And on a final note, I would like to thank all of the working group members for all of the work that they contributed to this report and continue to contribute to this ongoing initiative. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And Christina, thank you for volunteering to be on this committee. And I had the pleasure of going along on a couple of the audits, and it was a real eye-opener for me to see the simple little things that we overlook, that is a requirement of people that have less mobility. So I really appreciate, Mel, you taking a lead on that. So is there any questions or comments for Christina or Mel? Councillor Chapman?
Mayor Van Ryan, and through to Christina and Melanie, I want to thank Christina particularly for articulating so well your position, and of course, I believe exactly as you do, is that accessibility is a right, and I'm just really grateful for your presence today and to hear from you. And I understand exactly where we're all at in terms of accessibility here in Coaldale. I do sit on the Handy Ride Association as well, and so we're working hard there as well to try to connect the dots and make your trips from A to B, seamless. And I want to thank Melanie for joining the Handy Ride Association to articulate the process that Access Coaldale is embarking on. And so with that, I'd like to make the motion that we receive this for information, your report, I should say. With this audit, I might just have a question through to you, Melanie, is now that council is aware, now that administration is aware of some of the points that might be concerning points, I'd like to ask if there would be, if council or the town would be held either liable or in a situation whereby there might be a mishap or a situation that arises as an account of somebody tripping, for example.
Through the chair to Councillor Chapman, I can't say with certainty that there's anything that puts us at significant liability. However, I would have to look deeper into that and perhaps consult with our accessibility consultant about liability concerns.
Kaylin?
Through the chair to Councillor Chapman, excellent question. I don't believe there's any increased liability on the part of the town. Unfortunately, a lot of the accessibility limitations that we have in facilities are grandfathered in from the requirements at the time. But this is an opportunity and a roadmap for council to be aware of what the gaps are, and then next step to create a action plan in terms of how to budget for and improve some of these gaps. In terms of the risk, with liability, we do have an infrastructure improvement program that our operations department looks after for any safety hazards. But there's a difference between a safety hazards relative to liability and then infrastructure design at the time the infrastructure was created, if that distinction makes sense.
Councillor Chapman?
Thank you, Mayor, and through to Kaylin or Mel. I'm looking forward to learning and seeing where are the next steps, and I imagine there will be a necessity for a budgeting process to address some of the deficiencies where they may occur. And I mean, might be some deficiencies we can address immediately that are very cost affordable, but yet there's probably some longer term areas where there might be some longer term programming or planning that might take place. And if there are some grants that we can access in terms of trying to address some of these deficiencies, I'd really be happy to hear that too.
Yes, through to Councillor Chapman, our prioritization process will consider low, medium, and high priority items. We will also be consulting with our infrastructure department and operations department to ensure that we're aligning some of these improvements with future planned improvements. And we are looking into additional funding wherever we can. And this report really allows us that first step in the right direction to be able to apply for those funding or for those grants.
Okay, well, thank you. So there is a motion on the floor that council receives the accessibility audit final report as information by Councillor Chapman. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Well, thank you again. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to 11.1 under correspondence. Letters to council in support of the VLTs. And Councillor Chapman alluded to those earlier. There's 152 or so. And as discussed, Lana will go through the list, and any letters that do not have the correct address, as in from Coaldale, she'll take those out, and then she'll have that cleaned up for our public hearing. Any discussion on the VLT letters? Can I get someone to make a motion to accept the VLT letters as information? Councillor Saylor, any further discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimously, thank you. And then item 12.1, municipal affairs, the municipal internship program that was dated January 13th. That was part of the agenda package. Maybe I could ask our CAO just to speak on that for a minute, what that's about.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you, Mayor. It's a good news agenda item. We did receive a grant from the province of Alberta to pay for 2/3 roughly of the salary of a municipal intern. This would be a 2-year program where the funding is for a portion of year 1 and year 2 under the administrative stream of the internship program. With the internship program, there is also a planning stream, and our planner, Melanie, came from an internship program under the planning stream, and now this will be an internship program under the administrative stream. And the fun part about something like this is you not only get assistance, but you get to mentor recent graduates from the university of some type across Canada. They're part of that pool of applicants that we interview, but they also get to provide service and time in each of the different departments to help provide a well-rounded internship curriculum for the applicants that we hire. So we're quite excited about this. It's a win-win for the town and also for these incoming graduates on what a career profession in municipal government might look like.
Great, thank you very much. Any questions regarding this internship? Seeing none, can I get someone to sponsor the motion that council receive the municipal internship correspondence as information? Councillor Pickering, any further discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. So that concludes the open portion of the meeting, and we're going to be moving into closed meeting, and that council move into closed session at 5:44 p.m. in accordance with Section 197-2 of the Municipal Government Act to discuss matters exempt from disclosure for item 13.1, subject to FOIP Section 16, third-party business interests, and Section 25, 26, 27, 28, and 29, economic interests. Item 13.2, subject to FOIP Section 16, third-party business interests, Section 17, third-party personal privacy, Section 23 and 24, intergovernment relations. Can I get someone to make a motion to go into closed meeting? Councillor Reese, any discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We'll just take a couple-minute break while everybody gets oriented.